Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5, well, a few minutes after, but here we are. We are on the last day of the year of 2020, going into 2021. So Live at 5, all things healthy. Healthy discussion is another way to look at it as well. And as usual, we're going to do something new, something completely different, something that may give us some clues on things, things like that. And then we're going to go into some news, have some discussion. I want to talk particularly about a couple of things. I did say hold the presses, which sounds very, very serious. But at the end of the day, this is an opportunity. It is tomorrow, which is tomorrow's tomorrow, always tomorrow, but it's tomorrow of a new year. So we got thumbs up for what we're going to go into 2021 with, which is in everything else, disobedience. So we have a way of looking at disobedience a little differently than usual. It's a peaceful disobedience. It is just doing the things that make most sense. And I'll go into that news because that'll kind of motivate us or inspire us to do the things that maybe looked at disobedience, but it's really not disobedience. It's actually just standing up for what is right. And that's kind of the end of it. So let's first go into, and then we'll tell a couple of jokes as well. First, we're going to go into what is something new, something different. I wanted to show you this particular unit. It's called a zapper. It's zapper. Well, hi, sis. Sis who's in there. We're making an Irish feast tonight. So here's the zapper. And the zapper is actually, it's very quite simple. It's like a D battery. You can see a couple of pennies, and then there's a switch to turn it on. And this particular unit, what you would do is it actually attracts parasites. It attracts parasites is probably the easiest way to do it. So you could put it in muscles down where the main artery is, and you can actually feel, when I say zapper, it actually, you get a zap when parasites are coming onto it. Now I'm just going to post the website below so you can look at it and explore what it is more, but very, very simple. And oftentimes simple makes, how can I say, simple may very well be all that we need. And instead of overdoing it or think you have to have the next best thing, simple may be good enough. And it's my position that we make things complicated, and we've made things complicated even from a marketing standpoint so that you will buy it and you'll buy the next best thing or whatever's trending and so we going down that path. We spend a lot of time, money, and energy when something simple as this, or drinking water, as I say in my book. One doctor was completely no medicine, no nothing at his disposal to help people who are having digestive disorders. And what did he simply do? All he simply was actually give them water, and they got better over the days and weeks. No different than the cold. They've done studies where don't do anything or do, the medication, the cold medications and that. And you know what? What happened at the end of the day was they both got well at the same time. So there you go. Something different is the zapper. So I'll post the link on that so you can explore a little better. But zap those parasites is what I remember most about it. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. We're going into 2021 and we're going to be motivated and inspired. And it seems like if you've been following the narrative on the vaccines, that even if you get your vaccine, never mind the first one, but even the second one, you're actually going to still have to mask, still have to physical distance. It's not going by the wayside. And this is what people had understood would be the solution to this. And whoop, ball drops, there is no difference going forward. And they're still going to have these lockdown measures. So at the end of the day, more and more people, I'm going to post I've been going through the World Health Organization here regarding pandemic and flu protocols, and they've spent a lot of time on putting these things together. Be it I don't really 100% agree with the idea of a pandemic. Now, the idea with pandemic, with killing X number of people, the only one that I know that's true to its nature and happening naturally was actually the Black Plague. And that one was, and I've spoken to it before, that one was human error creating a very, very unhealthy environment. And, well, they didn't know about cleanliness, about fecal matter and urine and it being a problem, because coming into villages and cramming people in and people moving into those versus the rural, so urban versus rural, in the urban environment they didn't have a very healthy environment. They had the coal, it just, running water, all of that, the facilities didn't exist back then, and that's why the Black Plague. But a number of the things that have been happening, and let's say not necessarily third world country, because I think in some ways we've led that astray. So I mean, when it comes to clean water, absolutely still reminds me of the Black Plague. So we really have situations here where if we do not have clean water, and if we do not have clean air, and we do not have clean food, we will run into problems. It's really that simple. The idea that other things exist because we're traveling around, absolutely. I've talked about the mosquitoes. The mosquitoes are giving us many inoculations of local things. Let's think of malaria. And they have a buildup. They have an immune system. They're immune to it, whereas other people coming in. So travel may not be, may be part of the problem. Going to places where we have not grown up, where we have not been privy to the environment, building our own immune system. So that's another, if you have to think of it as another pillar. So the first pillar is our environment and not having clean water. It's the Black Plague. And the second one would be just the way we travel and not having the immune system built up to the local environment. And mosquitoes would absolutely give us that. The third issue that I see as the biggest one in our world is really unhealthy or nutrient deficient food. And that's highly processed, where it kills the good ingredients, it kills the natural bacteria, and we are eating sterilized food. So we're not really building and turning over healthy cells and supporting our body the way it should be. The other things my understanding is with my research. So that's three pillars that seem to be, from my understanding, all my research, natural. What's not natural is what's happening today. Okay, where these labs are supposedly inventing new viruses and have been shut down, or shut down projects due to that. So we're not quite sure in Wuhan whether or not that was what was actually released. Was it? Wasn't it? It doesn't seem so from the numbers. That's where I will go with it. But there is enough paperwork to go, okay, they are doing this. Could it be that? And maybe that's the kind of trail they want us to go down. But the H1N1, the HIV, my understanding is it's all man-made. It's all man-made, all experimentation, even the Spanish flu, which started in America with the troops and experimenting, and with vaccines. So they've been giving the American troops these drugs, these medicines, these shots over the years. Now it's been 100 years basically since the Spanish flu, and that is probably the fourth pillar, but unnatural, created, provoked, whatever we want to call it. So that's where we've got to get to, where people understand, have enough understanding about how the physical body works and what is possible and what isn't possible. And this is why our good digestive system has and does what it does, be it vomiting on one end, diarrhea on the other. This is our protective mechanism by things going through our system, digestive. Cough, you cough it out. sneezing. All of these things are our survival mechanisms that actually blow things out of our body. If we had a healthy lifestyle, we would naturally detox most of the other things. But we have an issue here. When they're inoculating, injecting directly into our bloodstream, passing all of our other protective shields, I guess I'll call it, from our skin to our digestive system to our lung tissue, all of these things, our nasal passageway, all of these are protecting our body from going, no, we don't want it. But we do not. We lose that ability to protect. So here's hold the presses. This vaccine is already causing various issues around the world. Some of it, we're not there, so we don't really know. But I'm going to post some things on it that I can find. And, just in a lot of ways, we have to understand one thing I really wanted to go into. And, okay, so I'm going to find this here. Actually, I'm going to speak to it. In Stockholm, Sweden, they had a peace summit, and there was various doctors. Some is in French. Some of it isn't in French. And I'm going to post the timing on which you're going to go to. But here's the thing, people. This vaccine is new. And they say it's promising, but that's just a way for thinking about medicine being they know something we don't know. But our bodies are so intelligent, it's not known. And this is what I want to actually explain to you. This is hold the presses here. Our system, our body, when we think about, and I look at the diagram here, and I'm going to put the time up, and you're going to listen. This person is speaking in English. Let's go to the base, smallest, most intricate part of our body, which is the DNA, or you can think of the many chromosomes where the DNA is. And I've talked extensively in my book about it, the genome and the epigenetics. Now, when I ask people if they have actually heard of the Genome Project, they inevitably usually say yes. The majority of people will come back to mind. Now, we're talking a couple of decades ago. Then I ask them, do you remember it being completed? And they go, no, they never heard anything. The reason being you didn't hear anything about it is because the DNA that they have access to with the machines that exist today is, how can I say it? Similar to an insect, similar to, I think it's a mouse, but don't quote me. It could be a rat. No, I think it's a mouse. So what they discovered was that the protein coding sequences, by the way, which I want to go this important number, I want to kind of frame this for you so you really understand. It's going to get to this. Vaccines have an mRNA, RNA, DNA, RNA. This is where you get to replicate all the protein things, the sequences. That's over here. That's the vaccine. They're putting that in there. And what they've been doing in the Genome Project, just to make it clear, is they are looking at the protein coding sequences. And they thought they were going to find 100,000 when they only found about 30,000. And again, once again, very similar to an insect, very similar to I think it was a housefly and a mouse, something like that. Anyway, all the details are there. I'll put it on there. But guess what? That protein coding sequences is only 1.5% of a particular piece, right? So we're thinking protein. That's all they were working with, people. The rest of it, they don't really understand, and then to put it together, it'd be like having a puzzle, and I throw you the puzzle pieces, and we're talking not 1,000 pieces, not 5,000 pieces, but 100,000 pieces perhaps, or even 1,000,000 pieces. And so now you have these million, where do you start? Where do you start? At least with a puzzle, we have the concept that you put the pieces together, you build the border. And they don't know. They're going into these territories where they do the best they can. Now, you have all of these, 22 plus an X and Y chromosome or whatever it is. 1.5% is only the protein. That's all they were working with the Genome Project. But you know what else they discovered? that a worker bee, they're going to show pictures on this video, a worker bee and a queen bee have exactly, according to the machines, maybe the protein sequencing only, exactly the same genes. Exactly the same genes. Yet, when you look at a queen bee and a worker bee, they look completely different. Completely different. So here you go. The next piece, which you might have heard of, is epigenetics. And epigenetics is something that they needed to kind of figure out because you can't have the same DNA and yet have big differences visually, and who knows what else. So you have this thing, epigenetics, which is just on and off switch like a switch, and up and down the DNA would where these things could be turned off and on. So this is a simplistic view of it. But when you see the two bees, but I think you can imagine a queen bee being very big, a worker bee being smaller, but they look completely different. So let's just say back to the virus, what they're putting in there is DNA, or it's really RNA. It's all kind of material, building material, but they're also putting other protein or DNA in there as well. And the fear from a number of the specialists is this is going to change our DNA. Now, I can't tell you if it is or if it isn't, but the idea that this is new science seems to me people would get excited because things didn't work so well before with certain things, and you'd have to read the science on many of those things. But the actual vaccines themselves, the new ones, these new ones, are giving hope, but at the same time, they are really testing the scientists and doctors and even myself as to no way, don't, what you're now putting in these vaccines make them more like Frankenstein than ever before, where simply to build our system and our immunity would to have anything foreign come in and our body build antibodies naturally. But what they do with vaccines and what they've done in the past is put all this toxic substance in, because live viruses, whatever, they're meant to do a job. They're not meant to be isolated and put into a tube and injected into our body. In the living world, in our natural environment, they have a role, and they're succeeding at that. They exist for a reason. But once you put them, you isolate them. It's like taking an apple. An apple, in its wholesome skin on, is going to be better than if you were to juice that apple health-wise. So look at it as that. You've got a whole apple just picked from the apple tree, and now what they've done with the material is like producing apple juice. It's not the same wholesome. It's missing the fiber. Its color is brown. It's oxidized, and so they have to put chemicals in these vaccines to actually hold it together so it doesn't disintegrate and become bad, just like decomposing would be, if that makes any sense. Because it's not in its natural environment doing what it needs to do, it's in a container. It's been isolated, processed, put in a container. It no longer has its purpose, and so it starts to go moldy, if you want to think of it that way. And that's what they're trying to do with refrigeration, put in mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, all of these various things so that it won't do that. Does that sound healthy? Not at all healthy at all. So I definitely want to put that link below as well. That's key. Then the other thing I want to bring up, that's the key thing I wanted to bring up, is like hold the presses. We're thinking about putting things in our body that may impact us and we don't even know, along with all the other toxins in there as well. The other thing I wanted to bring up is a particular video. It's not that long, but this is for everybody to do the research, is the Great Reset, or they call it, right? An economic reset, and going to digital currency, and how a health scare becomes important to get the people to change their habits. How do you get the people to change their habits immediately? Well, just look at this fake, pandemic, this lockdown. It's exactly like that, a health scare. You want to get people to move. All you have to do is call fire, and people are going to move. Whether there's a fire or not, they're going to move, and they're going to run with the crowd. They're going to panic. So what we have today is just fear and panic. So as much as we can catch our breath and do what brings us joy and peace and happiness all at the same time, and also disobeying, but I want to think of a different word than disobeying. That's going to be ideas. So today, a number of people are doing actually special YouTube or Facebook videos to put the word out there about what we have to do going forward. Now, should, whatever you want to do, you're going to do what's going to feel comfortable for you. But really, the idea here, I'm going to go through a number of things next Monday, but the idea is this disobeying is going to be important to communicate to people that this isn't normal. They're going to ask questions, they're going to see things differently and go, what? So more and more that we can bring it to the forefront of what is not right, what is not healthy here. So this is where I kind of sit with what's going on now, because just to keep shutting down and to really work with the economics of it as well is where it fits into the Great Reset. Besides you buying online and getting used to that and liking that and being home, there's a lot of people staying home because they're so fearful. A number of people, they are fearful out of their wits. Is that right? No, because this particular thing is a health scare, but it's not really a health scare. But death and everything else happens. So we have to be compassionate from the standpoint of things have happened and will happen as a result of the fear, of the result of people losing their businesses and all of that kind of stuff. So this is where I just want to, I have some water here. So let's do a cheer. Let's do a couple of jokes, and we're going to carry on. I'm going to put the links either today or tomorrow, but continue the discussions, continue to hear how people are feeling, compassion, and all of that, and peace. So cheers to an interesting 2021. I think it's going to be interesting. Have to lock it up when we take the drink. If you're going to cheer, you got to lock it up by having the drink. So let's tell a couple of jokes here. See what we have in that. All right, see here. A police officer stops a driver and says, "Your tail lights are out and your bumper's broken. That'll be $300. And the driver says, "Go right ahead. They want twice as much at the garage." So, wow. Funny. What did the mountain climber name his son? What did the mountain climber name his son? Cliff. Okay, last one. What do you call a man with no nose and no body? So what do you call a man with no nose and no body? Nobody knows. But it's spelled nose, N-O-N-O-S-E. So we'll post that at some point. So I just want to, again, wish everybody a wonderful New Year's Eve. Let's drink a cup of courage and eat some strength and whatever else we can add to that may be poetic, and look forward to a very interesting 2021, because this is where the growth is going to come in around the world for each other and with each other. It's going to be interesting. So continue to imagine what you want. Continue to imagine that, and we'll see how it unfolds. We are creators, no question about that. Manifesting is real. Placebo is real. The power of the mind and all the powers that we have within us, our personal power, the placebo power, purchasing power is one of my favorite. All of these powers exist and they never go away. It's just tapping into them like a keg of beer. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Again, we'll see you next year. Have a wonderful evening. Bye for now, and we'll see you soon.